Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2018 Pigskin Pick'em Rundown. It's one of those two
Extravaganza.
things. Extravaganza. That's right. We're back at you. We got in there, did a little bit of a quick recording last week, but this week we're back at you with some guests. Jason Teasley is here. He's come back to the show. Jason Teasley, are you ready to talk a little NFL football today?
Well, what better way to come off a hiatus than with me?
That's right, man.
That's like awaiting Christmas morning and Santa Claus to show up.
Wow.
That's the level of joy I bring any podcast that I'm a part of.
That is absolutely correct. So last time we had a discussion on here, me and you were talking about, I think we were talking about the Giants, and we were talking about, I laid out a case for Eli Manning. And just real quick before we jump into things, I mean, it's been about a little less than a month since we talked last, I think. Have you seen any improvement? Anybody, has
you on a 2-game winning streak?
That's called an improvement, sir.
We legitimately have the ability to still win the conference. And we have won 3 games to this point, and we can still win the conference. That is how bad the East is this year.
Right now, looking at the standings, New York Giants 3-7, sitting in last place in the division. But that's stark better than the 1 win you guys had there a couple weeks ago. So that's great.
I rocket strapped them to victory. Eli listened to this, got motivated. They turned it around, and I still believe in Eli.
Let's be realistic. I know the Giants are your team, but we've got to go through this schedule and see what it's going to be like. All right, Philadelphia Eagles are next week. What do you think?
Considering they're almost intertied, defense is on our, I think we can win it.
All right. You got a tough game coming up after that, December 2nd, Chicago Bears. You guys are hosting the Chicago Bears, so you got home field advantage.
I think it's an outside chance. I mean, that defense with Khalil Mack is like ungodly right now. But you got to still play offense, and that offense isn't very intimidating, not like the defense. But, they always say defense wins championships. Hopefully that defense don't show up and we can squeak one out against Chicago. I think that's the only, in all honesty, I think that's the one game that I fear that we may lose in this stretch.
Washington Redskins. You guys are going over to the Washington Redskins on the 9th of December.
Hey, it's a division game. I don't think Washington is as good as what they're showing. I think we legitimately have a chance due to the events of this past week.
Yeah. After that, guys are going to be hosting the 5-5 right now Tennessee Titans on December 16th. They were heavy favorites in our pick'em, but they ended up losing against Indianapolis. So Indianapolis, they went to Indy and lost 38-10. So you guys are hosting them. So you think you can do it?
Of course. Like I said, I believe in Eli. I think Barkley is phenomenal. I think that's an understatement. And I think that there's a little spark that's lit there that they know they can still win the division.
Then you guys are on the road again. So it's actually kind of alternating here. You guys are at home, you're on the road at home, on the road at home, on the road at Indianapolis, 5-5.
You've always got to worry about Andrew Luck. I mean, that's a given.
Yeah.
And nice little stat. He has gone like an ungodly amount of time without being sacked, which is surprising in itself. And that's a detriment to their offensive line. I mean, I think it's like something like 300 and some snaps.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I mean, it's like in the top 5 longest streaks without a sack or something. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Wow. And then we have the final game. You guys are closing it out against a definite division rival, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. And I believe you guys, from what I can see, are hosting the Dallas Cowboys. So, there's so much schizophrenia in some of these teams, and almost every single one of those teams, save the Chicago Bears, all feel like, are they going to do good this week, or are they going to suck?
They're all those teams right there are Jekyll Hyde. Even Chicago, you never know what Chicago team's going to show up. I mean, you could have the Trubisky that throws 6 touchdowns and a half or something, or you can have the Trubisky that has an offensive total of 115 yards.
The Giants are on a 2-game winning streak here. Has any offseason moves been discussed, anything solidified, or are we just focusing on getting through and trying to make our best of a run for the playoffs?
Well, that's an interesting question because I've seen it today on Bleacher Report. There's the front office is split 50-50. It's either, pack up this season for the draft position because, this has got a pretty solid draft class of quarterbacks, and they draft Eli's successor, or they make the run to playoffs because they can win the division. It's split down the middle. I think you play to win. I don't believe in, I'm all for getting Eli's successor, but also I like to win now. I like to see a happy Giants day when we do win. And when the Giants lose, I'm not in the best of moods and to be very unlivable with, according to my wife. So I would rather see them win than play for draft position.
Let's talk about, inside your division, something very shocking happened to the quarterback, Alex Smith, of the Washington Redskins over the weekend. In the game against the Texans, right? They're playing the Texans here. Third quarter, Alex Smith gets hit, ends up breaking his right tibia and fibula on a sack by Kareem Jackson. So Alex Smith goes down with this leg injury that just, it's one of those things where people are like, hey, you be ready if you click on this and watch it because it's pretty gruesome.
I'm going to say this, and this ties into what you said. I've seen my share of bad sports injuries. Most notably, Willis McGahee blowing his knee out in college in the national championship when he played for Miami. Napoleon Kaufman blowing his knee out on Monday Night Football when I was in high school. And then there's the big one that everybody knows. There's two people when you say NFL injury that are synonymous with that sentence. One is Lawrence Taylor, who played for the New York Football Giants. The other is Joe Theismann. The Theismann injury is quite possibly the worst injury I've ever physically seen happen in a sporting event. And now you have Alex Smith, who, like we was talking off air, the Illuminati parallel that happened. Well, we'll run down. Both happened to the same, the quarterback of the same team, the Washington Redskins. They were both injured on November 18th, the actual anniversary of Theismann's injury. Theismann was actually on the sideline tweeting during the game about the anniversary.
Oh, wow. They
both happened on the 40-yard line. They were both tackled by a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. The scores of both games ended at 23-21. Romeo Cornell was on the sideline of the opposing team on both games, and the head coach of the team initials was JG, Joe Gibbs and Jay Gruden. And they both happened at home. Smith's happened at FedEx Field, and Theismann was RFK. This is some weird coincidence stuff, how all this stuff lines up. And in all honesty, I really think Alex Smith's career is over.
Yeah, didn't this end Theismann's career as well?
Yes. This was Theismann's. That's why I said when you talk about football injuries, everybody knows this as being when LT was hopped up on cocaine and obliterated him. Another little tidbit of information. Do you know the movie The Blind Side?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I do not go out seeking to watch these injury videos in any way. And I've always heard of Theismann's injury. The only footage that I've ever seen of the play that happened on was from that movie. Don't they show that at the beginning to basically set up the reason as to why it's called The Blind Side?
Yes, because, and this is why your tackles are paid so much. This is the blind side of your quarterback. Whatever blind side your quarterback's on, this is why they're paid so much, because they're the anchor and the support of your quarterback's blind side. Hence, that's what the position Michael Orr played. and that was the position that wasn't played when Theismann got injured. I mean, that hit revolutionized football because it caused people to take notice of how important that position on the field is. For Theismann, it would be, for a right-handed quarterback, it would be your left tackle. So yeah, it is. I mean, it is crazy, all the coincidences that happen, and the fact that Alex Smith, I mean, he's a great guy. Don't get me wrong, I love Alex Smith. Just to his career to be cut short by such a freak accident and horrific injury.
How long has he been in the league?
Well, Alex Smith started out in San Francisco, and he got injured, and Kaepernick took over for him, and he moved to Kansas City. Contract expired in Kansas City. He played great under Andy Reid. He hit the free market, wanted a lot of money this past season, this past off season. He wanted to get a big money contract. He knew Kansas City wasn't going with it. That's something we'll talk about a little bit later in a foreshadowing for some reason why he didn't get the money that he did in Kansas City. He took his bags to Washington, D.C. and he was playing good ball. He had the Redskins in first place in the division with next to nothing running game. I mean, AP is out there with a Walker.
Yeah, it's rare that you see him have a good game. He'll sometimes have a good game, and then it's just like, okay.
And the fact that he's not playing with a upper echelon of receivers. I mean, he doesn't have any big name receivers in Washington. His biggest name to throw, and he throws to, is Jordan Reed, who can't stay healthy, and that's the tight end. So, I mean, he was working magic with what little bit of resources he had. And like I said, he had them leading the division. So seeing something like this really is devastating on my end.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about, I think, what everybody's going to be talking about this year, up until at least the Super Bowl. And that's going to be this insanity that occurred on Monday Night Football between the LA Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, Teasley, did you watch the game?
Yes, I was glued to my TV last night for the first time in a long time on a Monday Night Football game. And the Giants has actually played Monday Night Football before, and I've nonchalantly just had it on in the background. But last night, I sat down and watched that display of young athletic talent that is, by everybody's measure of imagination, a preview to potentially this year's Super Bowl.
Yeah, man. So I don't understand how you could even get up from this game and go do anything. Here's the deal. So last night, peel back the curtain a little bit. I do a podcast called Source Material. That's a comic book podcast, and we usually record our shows on Monday night. In our discussion, it was me, Ronnie, and Mark, and we had a special guest on from another podcast. So we're doing the Source Material podcast, and things are winding down on that, and we end up having to go directly after that into a Screaming Boy podcast on Stan Lee. So joining us for that is none other than current third place in the overall, Pat Mullen. This is 10 o'clock. This is about the 10 o'clock, maybe a little after the 10 o'clock hour. And during that, I'm not able to watch anything other than being on the internet and flipping back to Yahoo or NFL and checking the score. And I am legit sitting there, like, checking it every 2 minutes. It felt like every time I checked it, somebody scored. And I remember at one point, 10:20 was when we started, I think, Screaming Boy. Shortly after that, I'm like looking at the score. At the beginning of the fourth quarter, Kansas City has 30 points. The Rams have 40. So it's 40-30. There's 70 points at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Okay. At that point, I'm like, are these teams going to stop? Who is going to fall over from exhaustion first? Because it was just nothing but score after score. So Teasley, you got the chance to watch this. I mean, is there any highlights or anything that you took away from this game?
Oh, there's a lot I took away from the game. The fact that nobody plays defense in the NFL.
That's funny. That almost that rings with what Pat talked to me. We were talking on Messenger after the show. He says, how bad is the defense here? I'm like, yeah, I guess you got a point. But go ahead, Teasley.
Well, I mean, we could say how bad is the defense, but there was 3 defensive scores in that game.
True.
So, I mean, you really can't say, "Oh, this was a horrible defense," because there was 3 defensive scores. So it's one of those weird things that you really look at in hindsight. If you just catch a glimpse of what, like the ending result, you would think that, there was no defense being played, when actually there was a lot of defense being played. I want to blow your mind a little bit. The Rams scored, what was it, 51?
Yeah, they scored. The Rams scored 54. The Chiefs scored 51.
Okay, the Rams scored 54 points. They had less total yards and scored 54 points than the Bucs did a week ago, and only scored 3.
How in the world?
The Bucs put up, I think, 503 yards last night. The Rams had 487. The Bucs scored 3 points. 54 points for the Rams last night.
That is insanity, dude. I do not even understand. Where is the failure there? I mean, is it... Well, again, you mentioned there were some defensive TDs. I'm just kind of looking at some of the stats in the box here. Looks like Kansas City had 5 turnovers. Rams had 2. So, there's probably something to say about that right there. Man, they put over combined total. So 546 plus 455. That is 1,001 yards total in the game for both teams. That's amazing. 27 first downs, 29 for Kansas City, 29 for the Rams. I mean, my gosh, dude. 54 to 51. Now, I'll talk about this here later, but I put a lot of points on this game, and I had no right to do so. I put 1. Which was smart. In my opinion, I think that was a smart pick, because I'm sitting there sweating the 10 that I had on this thing and watching this score like it was like a ping pong match. One would go up, and then the other one would go up, and then the other one would go up, and then the other one would go up. I mean, it was just back and forth every single time. And I'm not even watching the game. I'm sitting there just watching the score on a computer screen. So, here's what went into my decision to take the Rams. Number one, I think what probably goes through a lot of people's head is who's got home field advantage. And that was number one.
Well, this game was supposed to be played in Mexico.
That's what I heard. Did they say why they changed that?
Yeah, because they booked a concert like a week or 2 before, and they didn't go in and do the necessary cleanup post-concert, and the field was in utter shit.
Oh, no.
And there was no way that they could have... They started trying to get the field prepared, and there was just absolutely no way to get it done in time. So they had to relocate the game.
Give me, if you could pick out a standout player out of everything that you saw last night from either team, okay, the one that shined the most to you, the one that made you go, wow, that guy's got some talent, who would that be?
Much as I hate to say it, because I was not a fan of his. I wasn't a fan of him when he played in the Big 12. Mahomes has made me a believer. I mean, the kid has talent. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't think he's the greatest thing walking, like some people I do podcasts and are friends with. But the kid has talent. He's got a very bright future. He's something you have that people can get excited about. If you are a Chiefs fan, you should be excited to have him leading your team for the foreseeable 10 years. I've become a fan of Mahomes simply because of what he's been able to do. I mean, he's proved me wrong many, many times this year.
Don't they have this like great running back as well? Who they have as running back?
Kareem
Hunt. Heard his name a couple times. I mean, my gosh, this team, just with that rookie there, Kareem Hunt's is he in his second or third year?
Yeah, he's in his second because they came in the league together.
I don't know how much more we're looking at the beginning of what they call a dynasty. I honestly think we are. Would you agree?
Oh, I mean, if they can get that defense lined up, I think they will be unreal. I mean, they've got a great tight end. They've got probably the best tight end in the league. I mean, when you think premier tight ends, you think Kelsey, Gronk, and Zach Ertz in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
They've got an absolute speedster at wide receiver in Tyreek Hill. They've got a top 10 running back, if not top 5 running back, in Kareem Hunt. I mean, I don't know, but what I'm scared of is the curse of Andy Reid. He's not very good in playoffs. I remember it's been a little bit ago when I think he was in Kansas City, but maybe 1 or 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. They had a huge lead on Indianapolis. I left Logan going to eat at Teays Valley, which is about an hour and a half away, with the girl I was seeing at the time. When we got to Charleston, Indianapolis, it was like halftime, and Indianapolis was down 21 points. We get to the restaurant, which is Fat Patty's. I know that you love.
I've been there. Oh yeah, love Fat Patty's.
You've been to the downtown one with me a couple of times.
That's right.
But by the time we get to Fat Patty's in Teays Valley, and magically the Kansas City Chiefs have choked, and the Indianapolis Colts have came back to win the game. We watched the Colts come back and win the game. Andy Reid just seems like always gets bounced in the first round of the playoffs.
Let's see. It's the second largest comeback in NFL history. So this is second-year quarterback Andrew Luck. Yeah, I remember watching this game, and I think I've said this on here before. The Colts are probably my second favorite team, really, behind the Browns. Anytime the Colts are in there, I'm rooting for the Colts. So I remember watching this game and just being extremely elated to watch them make this comeback, especially off of Andrew Luck, which I think it was like the last play. I want to say it was the last play of the game. It says a 10-yard rushing touchdown by Donald Brown was quickly followed by a sack fumble and another Colts touchdown. The Chiefs answered back with a field goal, only to see Indianapolis score 2 more touchdowns in 5 minutes. The first came on a pass to Kobe Fleener, and the second on a wholly remarkable fumble recovery by Luck. This Kansas City Chiefs team is probably one of the strongest I've ever seen the Kansas City play with. I really don't think there's much other direction than to go but up from here, in my opinion, for this Kansas City squad. Well, anything else you'd like to say here before we move on to, I think it's about time we get into talking about what happened in our Pigskin Pick'em.
I'm good, man.
All right. Well, Teasley, I know this is probably the darker part of the podcast that you probably would rather not talk about. You didn't have a bad week, though, last week. It wasn't horrible.
I didn't have a good week.
You didn't have a great week.
Well, actually, we can. I actually had a decent week.
Yeah.
I finished 5th on the week.
Not bad at all.
And I think that's my best finish that I've had. But I wish a couple of games could have went my way. That Atlanta game. If that Atlanta game would bounce my way, I would have been happy.
Yeah, that would have made a lot of people happy.
And that Chargers game, I think everybody took the Chargers.
Yeah, everybody took the Chargers. You had
well, Big Ben took Denver, and they just don't know how to put in weights. So I swear, if they put in weights, they would probably be miles ahead of anybody. But
yeah, we're looking at the overview. Big Ben has a 99-60, so 99 wins, 60 losses in his pick record, and that puts him at 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's tied for fifth with 3 other people. There's only a total of 4 people that have broke the 100 mark. There's a couple that are on the cusp, including Big Ben himself, with 99. So yeah, he would be up there probably playing around in the top 5 this year if he was putting weights in. And we're actually going to talk about that. So here we go, Teasley. I'm going to run down the week's results, and then we'll talk about the overall, and then we'll get into your lock, and your upset. All right? You ready?
I'm about as ready as I'm going to get.
Week 11, ladies and gentlemen, going from bottom to top. So the only person this week to score less than 30 points is White Dwayne, who I think at this point, he's just trying his best to try and get those upsets in order to try and gain some spots. He's a gambling man going against the grain on a good bit of these games, but this time it's resulted in only getting 4 games right for the week. So it's a rough patch for Dwayne Williams there. We have 2 people that scored in the 30s. Raider Nation, which, by the way, get well, Raider Nation. Justin has made a trip to the hospital, and I know he's been in the hospital for a few days, but he was able to get his picks in. Unfortunately, he came in 13th with 34, and Thug and Harmony in 12th with 37. Both of these players took Kansas City in Monday night's big game. Thug had 11 points on Kansas City and probably would be sitting in the top 5 for the week if things went differently last night. 40 to 45 points was spread across seven spots for the week. 11th sits Sawin with 40 points. Go Luck Yourself and Wilvis tie for 9th, each with 42. Then there's a 3-way tie for 6th between the Perfect Storm, NFL Super Pro, and Freebird edging out 9th by 1 single point for 43. Then it's Hobo Samurai, Jason Teasley, in 5th place with 45 points. Anything to say? Yeah, you beat Freebird at least, and you're making up some ground there. A couple points, but so all right, from 50 to 55 points. Steel Curtain gets 51 points, enough to gain them 4th spot for the week. A huge 10-point gamble on the Rams shoots Stizzy up to 3rd place with 55 points. Now, 2nd place belongs to Totally 80s Pat, who only lost 4 games this week, but his double-digit loss picking Arizona, who got beat by a field goal by his own team, the Raiders, with 2 seconds left, keeps him out of 1st by 1 single point. And speaking of 1st place, give it up for Mamaw Cat, who misses 6 games, counting the Thursday night game that she did not pick, but she totaled 58 points, which actually gives her it also gives her some assistance in the overall standings. So congratulations to Mamaw Cat for getting 1st place. I think this is her first top spot throughout the whole of the last 11 weeks. So congratulations, Mamaw Cat. All right, Teasley, you ready for the overall, buddy?
I'm not making up no ground, so yeah.
All right, here we go. So the overall. So we have a set of 4 people that decided to switch places this week. So we're going to go again from bottom to top. In 14th spot, so I'm just kind of writing off Big Ben and SBP Ronnie here because Ronnie hasn't made picks for a couple weeks, and we know Big Ben makes the picks. He just doesn't take the weights. But in 14th spot, Hobo Samurai closes the gap just a little on 13th spot Freebird, but is still currently 25 points behind. Freebird, though, capitalizes on Raider Nation's rough week and is now within 1 point of nabbing 12th. 11th spot, Sawin, has a nice 30-point cushion ahead of 12th and has closed in on hitting the top 10 as he is now only 10 points behind Dwayne Williams instead of the 22 points that separated them last week. And here we get our first change of the week. Mamaw Cat's 1st place performance rockets her to 8th, bumping Thug down to 9th. Now, 8th to 4th is actually a very close race, separated by only 17 points. 8th spot, Mamaw Cat is only 5 points behind 7th spot's Stizzy Stompers. Stizzy is eyeballing 6th place, Wilvis, as only 7 points separate them, and Wilvis is only 5 points back from the Perfect Storm and NFL Super Pro, who are currently tied for 4th spot. So I predict that there will be a shakeup between these 5 spots next week as the 15-point games finally return. Now, 3rd spot, Totally 80s Pat pulls away from 4th by 15 points and closes the gap on 2nd and 1st, now only 6 points away from taking over. And our second shakeup of the week goes to 1st and 2nd place. Go Luck Yourself falls on hard times and drops out of the top spot to 2nd place, now 4 points behind our new leader with a solid 4th place finish for the week, outscoring Go Luck Yourself by 9 points. Steel Curtain takes the throne and looks to keep it going into next week. So congratulations, Steel Curtain. You have got the top spot in the overall. So Teasley, listen to these. I got a couple quick stats, and then we'll get into the lock and the upset. You ready?
All right.
All right. Couple quick stats for week 11. There are 2 big-time upsets if you were to look at the group picks for this week. We kind of already talked about them. Everyone took Atlanta, and everyone took the Chargers, and they all lost some pretty big points on those 2 games. However, there was one person who did not take those teams, and just like you said, that was Big Ben 07. He's the only person that picked against the rest of the group for those 2 games. Interesting stuff. At the end of the other quick stat, at the end of week 11, there have been a total of 6 people that are playing out of the 14 that are still playing who have not won a week. All right. Now, this is interesting. 14th place, Hobo Samurai. So you haven't had the chance to win a week yet.
It's coming. I'm waiting to make my move.
He's feeling it. 11th place, so win. 10th spot, Dwayne Williams. 9th place, Thug and Harmony. 7th place, Stizzy Stompers, myself. And the biggest surprise of the bunch, the player with the best pick percentage on the board, having 106 wins versus 53 losses in his pick record, and currently sitting in 3rd place, Totally 80s Pat Mullen has not won a week this year. So, and I know if Pat Mullen was on the line right now, he would say it's going to happen next week. So, but he did specifically say his plan was to get the best pick percentage and win the overall by the end of the season. So right now he's currently at half of those 2. He's definitely got the best pick record out of all of us. So, all right. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is week 11 in a nutshell. Teasley, are you ready to give us your lock for week 12, buddy?
I will give you a lock.
All right.
I'll give you 2. I'll give you a lock and 2 upsets. How's that sound?
Oh, I like it. Let's hear it.
I'm going to go with a lock of the Ravens over the Raiders. I mean, the Ravens has got a top. I think they're like 4th in total defense, and the fact that the Raiders and Gruden is obviously tanking the season for draft position because he's got like 4 picks in the top 10 currently.
Wow.
So
yeah. I think just looking at it, I mean, the Raiders are, as I've seen plenty of times on Facebook, a dumpster fire, according to one Raiders fan that I know. He's not impressed with how the Raiders are doing this season. And going into a Ravens team, they're playing a Ravens team who is desperately seeking Susan. They're desperately
okay. Whoever the hell Susan is, we're looking for.
So the Ravens are trying to get the top of that division, and they're probably one of the stronger teams in the AFC North, in my opinion. But the Pittsburgh Steelers have been finding ways to win. So the Ravens, I'm sure, number one, they're not going to go into this game just thinking everything's locked up. They're going to go into this game wanting to win. Let's hear your upsets, man. 2 upsets?
2 upsets. One upset currently is at a 0% in my favor. It's 100% the other way.
Okay.
But of course, I'm going against the grain. And one of my upsets will be the Giants over the Eagles.
Ooh, oh man. I taking your team. I respect that. I do respect that.
You're going to expect me a lot more because my second upset is the Browns over the Bengals.
Oh, boy. Going into Cincinnati. Boy, would I love to go in on a Monday and look at Perfect Storm right in the face and say, hey, nana, nana, boo, boo. We did it at Cincinnati.
Because we're 6 years old again.
I will be. If the Browns go into Cincinnati and win, listen, I think of the AFC North teams, our best chance right now. We held our own against Pittsburgh, took them to a tie. Then we went to Pittsburgh, got beat pretty soundly, but that's all right. We took Pittsburgh to a tie on our first game out and didn't lose our first game in a very long time. We went up against the Ravens, played the Ravens, and kept it close. I think we've only played them once so far this season, I'm pretty sure. So the Bengals have been, if you look at their defense right now, I believe they have the worst defense in the NFL. We have the opportunity to go in there and make a statement, on the road. It's tough to do with this Browns team, but I would love to see it happen. So Browns over the Bengals, Jason Teasley.
Yep, I'm all for it.
I love it. Well, man, I apologize for all the interruptions. We made it through. Coming back 2 weeks, just like you said, Santa Claus came to town. He's bestowed presents upon us all. His own presents, actually. He bestowed his own presents, and that was his present to everybody.
His presence was his present.
He's desperately seeking Susan. All right.
Nobody else Susan is. We're still trying to figure out Susan.
All
Susan, right. Wherever you are, we're looking for you. Please give us a call.
Right here.
1-800-MISSING-YOU.
All right.
MISING and the letter U.
Beautiful. All right, man. I know you're doing some stuff over there on W2Mnet.com. Tell us all about it.
I'm doing very, very little because they tend to keep me under wraps, and they've learned to keep.
You remember the days of the cheap seats when you could just cut loose all the time?
Oh, I cut loose a lot, then I have Harry just try to get us back on track, but yeah, over on W2M you can find me ranting, raving, and just taking a podcast off the rails as usual on every Wednesday night when W2M brings you the kickoff. I was going to do a fantasy football cast over there, but can't get a co-host. So I had this one really good co-host back in the day, but he became too popular for me to get services.
Dude, if anybody could do a fantasy football cast, that would be you. I know that for damn sure.
And the only time I get to hang out with him is when he invites me on to talk about a Yahoo pick'em. So I mean,
hey,
I've been negated to doing guest spots on his show.
Hey, stop what you're doing right now. Top 3 highlights of me and you going up to Cleveland and watching the Browns versus the Giants. What was that, 2 years ago?
Yeah, it's right when me and Amber got together. It was 2016.
Man, oh man. First off, let me just set the scene. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Teasley, class act, gets tickets to go watch the Giants and the Browns, gives me one of them. I think it was either birthday or Christmas present, and it was probably one of the best Christmas presents I got in a long time. I hadn't seen the Browns in over, seriously, close to 20 years probably.
The anniversary of that trip is coming up as of this weekend. It was the Sunday after Thanksgiving that we went up.
That's right. So, okay. So first off, I'm setting the scene. Me and Teasley head up to Cleveland. We find a parking spot. We got up there pretty early, right? Like, what was it? Yeah. Probably about a good at least.
We got up there at like 10 a.m., 10:30.
Yeah, it was a few hours early.
For a 1 o'clock kickoff.
It was.
We walked around for a good hour and a half before they even opened the stadium. We went down to the lake.
Yep.
Somehow we ventured down there. Then we had the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and all the Japanese tourists taking pictures in front of it.
Yeah.
Then if not for meeting my wife, then I think I would have met my future wife as a drum major for the
oh my
Browns. I still have those videos.
I was gonna say, dude, we videotaped that all day long, if I remember right. Yeah.
Drum corps for the Browns, I think, contained what could have been my future ex-wife if I hadn't met Amber. Meeting OBJ was nice.
Yeah, dude.
You making fun of me saying I was like a little kid.
You did. You had this smile on your face like you were just oblivious to the fact that adulthood had hit you, and you're standing there looking up at one of your biggest heroes, and you got to actually did you get to shake his hand, or did he come over and say something, or what happened?
He came over and was talking to us and shook hands, and I really felt like Bobby Boucher. I was going, slap hand, slap hand, slap hand, slap hand. OBJ, slap hand. I couldn't remember if that was that was the first time I went to Cleveland when Eli was over talking to us. This time I met OBJ.
Yeah.
First time I was at Cleveland was a Monday night game, and I was down. I think it was maybe the same end zone. And Eli came over and was talking to people. So that was kind of cool. But the breakfast at Cracker Barrel.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff.
Us trying to get out of Cleveland with a dead iPad. That was interesting.
You can't forget the eclectic fans that were all around us. Let's see, we had 3 drunk chicks show up like a couple rows in front of us.
And she puked on the guy in front of her. I do remember that now. I had totally forgot about girl, the drunk girl puking on the guy in front of her. Oh God, I totally forgot about that.
There was about a fight behind us, if I remember right. There was
somebody got butt hurt. It was like an entire family trying to fight this guy. It wasn't just one person.
Dude.
It was like an entire family. Uncle Joe been hitting the sauce and want to start fighting. It was basically their Thanksgiving dinner. I'm pretty sure. Uncle Joe's out on parole. We're going to take him for the game.
Oh my goodness! I'm
getting the prison hooch.
One of the things that I took away from that, aside from having a blast with you, I got to watch Beckham. In his. It's not like he lit up the team, but he was a sight to behold just to watch him play. And it was really interesting to actually see how damn good this guy was. I mean, Odell Beckham Jr. is probably one of the he's definitely the best player I've ever seen live. I remember just watching him run routes, and
I mean, you are a Browns fan, so I mean that's the bar is set pretty low.
It was interesting to be able to be in the presence, to watch that, watch him play. This was 2016. We're going to look at the Cleveland Browns, who went 1-15 that year. 1-15, Teasley.
That game, Beckham had 96 receptions, 96 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Final score was 27-13. The Browns got 6 in the second to the Giants 14. It was 14-6 at half. The Giants put up 13 in the fourth, and the Browns scored a touchdown in the fourth.
Probably garbage time. It was Josh McCown came in. If I remember right, I thought maybe he started.
McCown started. He had 322 yards, 1 touchdown. There was an abysmal running game. Terrell Pryor had the best game. He had 6 receptions for 131
yards. Wow. Interesting. Well, yeah, that was a lot of fun, man. We're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of that, and I definitely wanted to. When we talked last time, I thought we should probably reminisce on the experience that we had. I can remember where we were sitting at. I just couldn't. It was kind of cold. It wasn't horribly cold. And it
was cold until the sun went down. When the sun, we was on the back side, and once that sun went down and we got in the shadow, it got cold.
Yes, it did. But that was a lot of fun. All right, Teasley, let's get out of here. So you're in the middle of your plugs there. So it's the kickoff.
That's the only thing I do now. I mean, I do the kickoff. I've got a guest spot coming up. I think we're recording it 2 weeks from today. I think. Yeah, it's 2 weeks from today. I'll be doing a guest spot on Damn You Hollywood.
Ooh, that's right.
I'll be joining Mark, and I think Ronnie's on it, and maybe Pat. Pat might be on it. I think it might be me, Ronnie, Pat, and Mark reviewing Creed 2. Which is going to be really interesting, especially if we get Pat on there, because Pat is a Rocky homer, and he thinks Creed is absolute garbage. And the fact that they're rehashing one of the greatest Rocky movies ever. Mm-hmm. So it's something that I'm kind of not looking forward to, because I loved Rocky 4. I mean, Rocky ends the Cold War.
That's right.
I mean, America owes a huge debt of thanks to Rocky for ending the Cold War by beating Drago. It happened. But, that defeat, a nice career path to become an expendable. Drago help save the the world and the Expendable franchise.
Nice.
So it has some positives come out of it. So.
Yes, indeed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the only thing I can say, go give the Rattlecha Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer, including this one. This one makes it to YouTube and it makes it to the Spreaker page. And that's usually about the only couple places I share it. So, yeah, catch us next week there. It's going to be week 12. We'll be talking, I think Pat Mullen's going to come back on. We're going to discuss week 12 and have a bit of a discussion about the games and probably some Thanksgiving stories as well. I don't know, hell. But Teasley, thanks again for coming on here. I'm Jesse Starcher. We'll talk to you week 12. This has been the week 11, 2018 Pigskin Pick'em Roundup. We'll talk to you next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.